The twin suns were rising over the red fields of the colony world called Tyrian 5. Morning light touched the long lines of crops shining like gold on the soil. Eli Benton, a human farmer, walked out of his small wooden house, stretching his tired arms. He had lived here alone for 5 years. No neighbors, no visitors, no problems. Just peace and hard work. But that morning something felt strange. The air was too still. The birds that usually made noise around his irrigation tanks were silent. Eli looked across his fields and froze. Half of his melons, big round alien fruit that took months to grow, were already gone. Torn vines, footprints in the dirt, and broken stems told him someone had been here before sunrise. "Not again," he muttered, grabbing his plasma hoe. "If it's those thieves from the ridge, they're about to regret it." He started walking through the tall rows of plants, the red sun casting long shadows. As he turned the last corner near the fence, he saw a movement, a small figure standing in the middle of his field, holding something in her arms. Eli stopped. His breath caught in his chest. It wasn't human. The figure was a girl, maybe as tall as his shoulder, with silver blue skin that shimmered in the morning light. Her long hair glowed faintly like moonlight, and her big golden eyes stared at him without blinking. She wore strange patched clothes that looked handmade, stitched from pieces of metallic fabric. And in her hands, she was hugging 2 large melons, pressing them close to her chest like they were treasures. When she saw Eli, her face lit up in relief. "Oh," she said in a soft but excited voice. "I know humans love melons." Eli blinked. He lowered his weapon, confused. "You... what?" She smiled wider, as if proud of herself. "I saw it in the broadcasts. Humans trade melons for happiness. I brought them for you." Eli looked around, trying to understand what was happening. His heart was still racing. She looked harmless, more like a lost child than an alien intruder. But her words made no sense. Broadcasts? Melons for happiness? He took a slow step closer. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" The alien girl looked down at the melons, then back at him. "My name is Lyra. I came from the forest beyond the crater. My home. It's gone. I didn't mean to steal. I thought this would make you smile." Eli could see now that her hands were trembling. The melons were heavy, but she held them like they meant everything to her. Her eyes darted around nervously like someone being hunted. "You're not from around here," he said softly. She shook her head. "No. My ship fell from the sky 3 moons ago. I hid in the woods. I watched humans from far away. I learned your words. I learned what you like." Eli looked at the damaged field again, then back at her. He wanted to be angry, but he couldn't. She looked too fragile, too scared, and something in her tone felt honest, almost innocent. He lowered his tool completely. "You didn't have to take them," he said. "If you needed food, you could have just asked." Her golden eyes widened. "Ask? You would share?" He sighed. "I would have thought about it." She tilted her head, confused by his sarcasm. Then suddenly she smiled, a bright, sincere smile that almost made Eli forget she wasn't human. "Then I'm sorry, human Eli. I will bring them back." She started to turn away, but a sound cut through the air, a sharp metallic whirring from above. Eli's instincts kicked in. He looked up and saw 3 small glowing drones hovering over the field, scanning the ground with red lights. Lyra froze. The color drained from her glowing skin. "No," she whispered. "They found me." Eli's brow furrowed. "Who found you?" She dropped the melons, panic filling her voice. "Hunters, from the syndicate. They track escaped ones like me. I have to run." "Hold on," Eli said, stepping forward. "You can't outrun them in open field." "I have to try," she shouted, backing away. But the drones were already turning toward her, their scanners flashing. Eli cursed under his breath. He didn't know what madness this was, but something inside him refused to let those machines take her. Without thinking, he grabbed his plasma hoe, aimed at the nearest drone, and fired a burst of blue energy. The shot hit dead on, exploding the drone into sparks. The other two spun around instantly, locking onto Eli's position. Lyra gasped. "You attacked them. Now they'll call more." "Then we'd better move," he said, grabbing her arm. She hesitated, trembling, but he pulled her toward the barn at the edge of the field. Behind them, the drones fired thin beams of red plasma, slicing through vines and soil. One blast hit a water tank, sending steam and dust flying. Eli and Lyra dove through the barn doors just as another beam scorched the ground behind them. He slammed the doors shut and ducked down, breathing hard. Lyra's eyes glowed softly in the dim light. "Why did you help me?" she asked quietly. Eli looked at her, sweat running down his neck. "Because you said humans love melons," he said with a faint smile. "And I guess we also hate bullies." For a moment the air was silent except for their quick breaths. Then Lyra smiled again, smaller this time but filled with warmth. Outside, the sound of the drones faded into the distance. But Eli knew this wasn't over. Whoever was hunting her, whatever this syndicate was, they'd be back. He looked out through a crack in the barn wall at the burning remains of his field. The peace he'd known on Tyrion 5 was gone, and the strange alien girl with the melons had just changed his quiet life forever. The sun was climbing higher when Eli finally opened the barn door again. Smoke still drifted across the field where his melons once grew. The smell of burnt soil filled the air, but his eyes weren't on the damage, they were on the strange. Alien girl sitting quietly in the corner, hugging her knees like a frightened child. Lyra hadn't spoken for a long time. She sat near a pile of old crates, her silver-blue skin faintly glowing in the dim light. The warmth from the nearby generator made small reflections dance over her face. Eli leaned against the doorframe, wiping the sweat and dust from his hands. "They're gone for now," he said. "But if those drones belong to whoever you're running from, they'll be back soon." Lyra nodded slowly. Her voice was small when she spoke. "They always come back." Eli frowned. "You said they were hunters? The syndicate?" She looked up, her golden eyes full of fear. "The Galactic Trade Syndicate. They control many worlds. They take people from small planets and use them as workers. Or worse. My people were farmers once, free, until the syndicate made us grow food for them. When my mother refused, they burned our fields." Eli stayed silent, feeling a chill run through him. The way she spoke, calm but broken, reminded him of stories from Earth's early colonies. People crushed by those stronger than them. She looked down again. "They came to our home every cycle, taking our harvest and our young. I escaped when they attacked my village. My ship was small, a transport for crops. It crashed here. I thought I was safe, but their drones can smell our kind through air particles. They'll find me again soon." Eli crouched beside her. "And what do you plan to do then? Run forever?" Lyra met his eyes. "If I must." He sighed. "That's not much of a plan." She hesitated, then stood up and reached for something hidden under her tattered cloak. A small, smooth metal cube, glowing faintly green. She placed it in his hands. "I didn't tell you the whole truth yesterday," she said. "I didn't come here only to escape. I came here to protect this." Eli turned the cube in his hands. "What is it?" "Data," she said. "It holds the genetic memory of my people, the soil patterns, seeds, and DNA that can bring our crops back to life. Without it, we can't survive. The syndicate wants it destroyed so we never rise again." Eli looked at her, then down at the cube. It was warm, like it had a heartbeat. "You mean all that is stored in here?" Lyra nodded. "My father died to save it. I stole it and ran. The melons I carried were part of it, living containers. When I hugged them, I wasn't showing love for food. I was hiding what was left of my world." Eli was silent for a long moment. The only sound was the hum of the generator and the wind moving through the cracks of the barn. Finally he said, "You're safe here for now. But if those syndicate hunters track energy signatures, this barn won't protect you for long. We need to move." Lyra looked at him, hope flickering in her eyes. "You'll help me?" He rubbed the back of his neck. Guess I already did, didn't I? Might as well see it through. Her lips curved into a small smile. Humans are strange. You risk your life for someone you just met. Maybe, Eli said, grabbing his old jacket. But humans also don't like seeing good people hunted down. Come on, we'll go to the forest, wherever you came from. Lyra stood, clutching the cube close. The two of them stepped out of the barn, heading toward the distant green hills beyond the smoking fields. The ground still glowed faintly where plasma had hit the soil, and the air buzzed with the memory of battle. As they walked, Lyra glanced at him again. You don't trust easily, she said softly. Not after the last few years, he replied. But you're different. You didn't lie to hurt me. You lied to survive. She smiled faintly. You understand more than I thought. Eli gave a half smile. Don't get used to it. They reached the edge of the forest as the twin suns began to sink again, painting the sky orange and violet. Shadows stretched long across the ground. Somewhere deep inside those woods, Eli could see a faint silver light, maybe the remains of her crashed ship. Lyra stopped and whispered, This way, my ship is waiting, and maybe, the truth you need to see. Eli looked toward the glowing light between the trees. He didn't know what awaited him there, but one thing was certain. This wasn't just about a lost alien girl anymore. Something much bigger was about to unfold. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet. The twin suns had sunk low, throwing long orange shadows between the tall silver trees. Eli walked behind Lyra as she led him deeper into the woods, her bare feet moving silently over the moss. He had never seen trees like these. Their bark shimmered faintly and each leaf glowed softly like tiny lanterns. Lyra stopped near a steep hill covered in vines. She pressed her hand against a large stone and with a faint hum the ground shifted. A hidden door opened, revealing the dark mouth of a tunnel. Cold air rushed out carrying the faint smell of smoke and metal. Eli raised an eyebrow. You've been hiding in here all this time? Lyra nodded. It's all that remains of my ship. I buried it after the crash so the Syndicate's scanners couldn't find it. They stepped inside. The tunnel led to a broken craft half buried in dirt and roots. Its walls were cracked, the metal twisted, but strange light still blinked weakly along the panels. Inside, cables hung from the ceiling and the air buzzed faintly with static. Eli's boots crunched against the floor as he looked around. You built this place all alone? Lyra gave a small nod. For 3 moons. I used the tools that survived. Sometimes I thought I would die here, but then I saw your farm. I saw life, and it gave me hope again. Her voice was soft, almost shy, but Eli could feel the weight of loneliness behind it. He turned his gaze to a console at the center of the ship. Strange symbols flickered across it, and next to it sat a single transparent container, cracked but still glowing. Inside it was a small green seed floating in blue light. Eli pointed to it. Is that part of what you showed me? The data cube? Lyra walked closer, touching the glass with care. Yes, that seed holds everything my people lost. Our soil pattern, our weather memory, even the scent of our home. The cube you hold has the key to unlock it. Eli frowned. So this is why the Syndicate wants you. If you bring back your world's crops, you'll be free from their control. Lyra nodded, her golden eyes glowing softly. They fear what they cannot own. They destroy what they cannot buy. Eli stared at the seed, feeling something heavy in his chest. He had come to this planet to escape Earth's wars, its greed, its politics. And now he had found the same evil hiding among the stars. What about your people? He asked. Are any of them still alive? Her expression changed. For a moment she looked far away, lost in memory. Some are, she whispered. Scattered in hidden colonies, waiting for a signal that hope still lives. I was supposed to send that signal, but when my ship crashed, I lost the transmitter. Eli looked around, his eyes scanning the wreckage. Maybe it's still here somewhere. She shook her head. It was part of the navigation core, burned in the crash. The only other place I can send it from now is your farm. Eli turned to her, confused. My farm? Lyra's voice became urgent. The irrigation system you built, it has old human relay chips. They're connected to the colony network. If I can rewire them, I can send the message to my people before the Syndicate tracks us again. Eli hesitated. If you do that, won't it expose the farm's location? They'll come straight to us, I know, she said quietly. But if I don't, no one will ever come for me. Or for them. The silence between them grew heavy. Eli looked into her eyes, scared, tired, but determined. She wasn't asking for pity. She was asking for a chance to fight back. He finally nodded. Then we'll do it. But we do it smart. I'll help you rewire the system at night. We'll finish before dawn. Lyra's eyes softened with relief. Thank you, Eli. He gave a half smile. Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen me handle colony tech. It's held together with tape and hope. She laughed quietly, the sound light and fragile, like wind through glass. For the first time, Eli realized how human she seemed when she smiled. Not because of how she looked, but because of how much she cared. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. The air felt heavier, charged. The Syndicate's ships were probably still searching the planet. As they stepped out of the hidden ship, Lyra looked up at the sky and whispered, "If we succeed, my people will finally know humans are not all destroyers. Some of you plant seeds." Eli looked at her, then toward his small farm beyond the trees. Smoke still rose from his burnt fields. But now maybe something new could grow there. He didn't know it yet, but that night, their choice would change the fate of two worlds. Night came quietly over Tyrian 5. The twin suns were gone, replaced by a deep violet sky scattered with stars. The faint hum of insects filled the air, blending with the slow rhythm of wind moving across the broken fields. Eli worked beside Lyra under the dim light of a lantern, connecting thin wires from her glowing cube into the rusty old irrigation hub. Sparks flashed each time a connection clicked. The old system groaned like a dying beast, but it worked. Lyra's golden eyes followed every move. "It's almost ready," she whispered. "Once I send the signal, it will reach my people. If the Syndicate doesn't intercept it first." Eli nodded, tightening a bolt with his wrench. "Let's make sure they don't." He didn't say it out loud, but his hands were shaking. The thought of being hunted by alien warlords wasn't exactly what he planned when he started farming melons. Still, something inside him refused to walk away now. Lyra crouched next to him, placing her hand over the cube. A pulse of soft green light filled the barn, spreading through the cables like water through veins. "It's transmitting," she said. Now we wait. But before Eli could answer, a low rumble echoed through the air. The ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. Lyra's expression turned pale. "They found us." Eli ran outside, scanning the horizon. A red glow burned on the distant ridge, growing brighter by the second. Soon the sound of engines filled the night, deep metallic roars that made his heart pound. 3 Syndicate ships appeared above the tree line, sleek and sharp, their lights cutting through the darkness. Drones dropped from their bellies like falling stars, their scanners sweeping across the land. "Get inside," Eli shouted, grabbing Lyra's arm. They ducked into the farmhouse just as the first plasma bolt hit the ground, exploding the dirt into fire and smoke. The old wooden walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lyra crouched beside the window, eyes wide with fear. "They're sending ground hunters. If they capture me, they'll erase everything. Even the seed." Eli grabbed his old blaster from the shelf, a weapon from the early colonist wars. It looked ancient, but it still worked. "Not if I can help it," he said. She looked at him, voice trembling. "You can't fight them alone." He gave a half smile. "Who said I'm alone?" Outside, the irrigation hub suddenly flared with light, the cube's energy leaking through the system. It pulsed through the pipes and into the soil. The ground began to glow faintly, turning the destroyed melon field into a sea of shining roots. Lyra gasped. "The soil is alive!" Eli didn't know what she meant, but whatever it was, it distracted the Syndicate's scanners. The ships above paused, confused by the sudden readings. He took the chance. "Stay down," he ordered, kicking open the door. He aimed and fired. The blaster roared, sending a bolt of blue plasma straight into a hovering drone. It exploded in a flash of sparks, lighting the night sky. Another one swooped down, firing at him. Eli rolled behind a pile of broken crates, heart pounding. Lyra crawled to the doorway and stretched her hands toward the ground. Her fingers glowed bright gold, and the vines from the field began to move, twisting, growing fast, snatching one of the drones from the air and slamming it into the dirt. Eli stared in disbelief. "You can control the plants?" She nodded, breathing hard. "My people are bound to life. We grow, we defend, we heal, but it takes energy. and I don't have much left. He fired again, taking down another drone, but the ships above were lowering now. They were huge black silhouettes with glowing red cores. A mechanical voice boomed through the air. Surrender the fugitive, or be erased. Lyra looked at him, her eyes glimmering with tears. Go, Eli, please, they'll kill you too. He shook his head. I already made my choice. The sky burst open as a plasma cannon fired. The ground shook violently and a wall of fire rolled toward the farmhouse. Eli grabbed Lyra and dove behind the irrigation tank. The explosion threw them both into the dirt. When the smoke cleared, half the farm was gone. The barn was burning, the soil blackened, but the transmission tower was still standing, glowing brighter than ever. Lyra coughed, clutching the cube against her chest. It's complete, she whispered. The message is sent. Above them, the syndicate ships turned sharply, their lights flickering. Somewhere far beyond the planet's orbit, a signal was now traveling. A beacon of rebellion. Eli helped her to her feet. The air was thick with ash and light. We sent your message, he said quietly. Now what? Lyra looked up at the burning sky. Now we wait for the stars to answer. But deep down, Eli knew this wasn't over. The syndicate wouldn't stop until she was gone, or until he was. And as the firelight danced across the ruined fields, he realized the real fight was only beginning. The fire still burned across the edges of Eli's farm, throwing waves of orange light into the night sky. The air smelled of smoke and melted metal. The last syndicate ship had pulled back into the clouds, leaving silence behind. But Eli knew it wasn't victory, only a pause before the next storm. Lyra sat on the ground beside the cracked irrigation tank, her silver-blue skin dim and pale. The cube in her hands flickered weakly now, its light fading. Her golden eyes stared into the flames, empty and tired. Eli knelt beside her. We did it, he said quietly. Your message, it's gone out. Lyra didn't answer at first. Then she looked at him and whispered, Yes, but now they'll come. Not just the syndicate. My people too. Eli frowned. That's what we wanted, isn't it? Help? Lyra shook her head. You don't understand. They won't come to save me. They'll come to judge me. He stared at her, confused. Judge you? For what? She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the cube. I told you half the truth, Eli. I wasn't just a farmer's daughter. I was born inside the council dome of Elindra, the capital city of my world. My father was the last free ruler before the syndicate took over. Eli blinked, trying to take it in. So you're a princess? She nodded slowly. By name, yes. But when the syndicate came, they made us slaves. My father hid me and gave me this cube. He said, Guard our life, not our crown. Then he stayed behind to destroy the archives so the enemy couldn't use our world's secrets. Eli sat back against the broken wall, processing her words. So this cube, it's not just data. It's your people's legacy. Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling. It holds the last code to rebuild Elindra's soil and restore its crops. Without it, the planet is dead. With it, my people could rise again. That's why the syndicate wants me erased and why my own council may fear my return. Eli frowned. Why would they fear you? She gave a sad smile. Because I carry the truth. The syndicate didn't conquer us alone. They had help from inside. Our own leaders made deals to survive. They sold their loyalty in exchange for power. If I come back, their lies fall apart. The wind picked up, scattering ash through the air. Eli could see the pain in her face, and not just fear, but guilt. You've been running your whole life, haven't you? He asked softly. Lyra nodded. I thought if I could send the message without being seen, I could save my people without bringing war to anyone else. But now, I've brought it here, to your home. Eli glanced around the burned remains of his field and chuckled bitterly. Home's been falling apart long before you showed up. At least this time it fell for a reason. Lyra looked at him, her golden eyes shimmering. You don't hate me for it? He shook his head. Hate you? No. You gave me something I hadn't felt in years, purpose. I spent half my life running from war. Then you showed up running straight toward it. Maybe it's time I stopped hiding too. For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the soft crackle of fire. Then a sudden glow appeared in the sky, a long silver beam stretching across the stars. Lyra stood, her body trembling. It's them, she whispered. They heard the signal. Eli looked up. A massive shape moved across the sky, blocking the stars. Not syndicate ships this time, but something else. sleek, curved vessels glowing blue instead of red. Your people? He asked. Lyra nodded slowly. The resistance fleet. They're coming, but her relief quickly turned to worry. If they tracked the beacon, the Syndicate did too. They'll be here soon. If the two forces meet above this planet, Eli finished her thought. It'll be a war zone. Lyra turned to him, her expression hardening. We have to make sure the seed survives, no matter what happens to me. He looked at her with disbelief. What do you mean? You're not planning to... She stepped closer, placing her glowing hand over his heart. Promise me, Eli, if they come for me... You take the cube, you run. You protect it. He grabbed her wrist gently. No promises. We both live, or neither does. Her lips curved into a small, sad smile. You humans. Always stubborn. The air above them thundered. The night sky tore open with streaks of red and blue fire as two fleets began to descend toward Tyrion 5. Lyra took a deep breath and whispered, Then the time for running is over. Eli glanced at his blaster, then at her glowing eyes. Then let's make a stand worth remembering. The night sky over Tyrion 5 had turned into fire. Blue and red streaks of light tore across the heavens as two fleets clashed high above the burning farm. The Resistance and the Syndicate. Their explosions echoed like thunder across the valley. The ground shook, windows rattled, and sparks rained down like glowing snow. Eli and Lyra stood in the middle of the ruined field, side by side. The farm that once smelled of soil and life now smelled of smoke, ozone, and metal. Every shadow around them seemed alive with danger. Lyra's golden eyes reflected the burning sky. They're both coming down, she whispered. The Syndicate will land first. Their ground troops will sweep this area. Eli checked the charge on his old blaster. It hummed faintly, not much power left. Then this is where we hold them. Lyra looked at him with quiet strength. You could still run. They want me, not you. Eli gave a half smile. Too late for that. You dragged me into your war, remember? Her lips curved just for a heartbeat. Then I'm sorry. And grateful. The wind howled as the first Syndicate ship descended, engines glowing red like molten rock. It landed beyond the barn, kicking up clouds of dust. Figures emerged, dark-armored soldiers with glowing visors and heavy plasma rifles. Lyra raised her hands, and the ground around her began to move. Vines burst from the soil, wrapping around her arms like living threads. The same green energy that had filled the melons now pulsed through the earth. Stay close, she said softly. Eli crouched beside an overturned tractor. The first wave of soldiers moved in, their boots crunching on the burnt ground. A mechanical voice barked orders through the smoke. Capture the target. Kill the human. Eli's jaw tightened. Not happening. He fired the first shot. Blue plasma ripped through the darkness, striking a soldier square in the chest. The blast knocked the rest back. Lyra slammed her palms against the ground, and the vines reacted instantly, growing like lightning, wrapping around legs and weapons, pulling enemies into the dirt. Bolts of red light filled the night. The air hissed and screamed as energy beams sliced through the vines. Eli rolled, firing again and again, each blast lighting his face in brief flashes. One soldier managed to break through the tangle, charging straight at Lyra. She turned, eyes blazing gold. No! A burst of bright green light exploded from her hands, throwing the attacker backward. The vines caught fire from the plasma heat, filling the air with smoke. Eli coughed, voice rough. You all right? Lyra nodded weakly. I can feel their energy. They're burning the land to stop me. I can't hold it for long. Then we don't hold, Eli said, grabbing her hand. We fight smart. He pulled her toward the farmhouse. Inside, he dragged out a large metal barrel filled with old fuel. If they want this farm, let's make it bite. They rolled the barrel near the barn's remains, setting up a small detonator. The Syndicate troops regrouped at the edge of the field, their red armor glowing through the smoke. Above them, flashes of blue light marked the Resistance ships breaking atmosphere. Lyra stumbled beside him, her skin flickering with dim light. They're close, she whispered. My people. I can feel their call. Eli handed her the cube. Then send them one last signal. She held the cube tight, whispering ancient words in her own language. The cube pulsed brightly, sending waves of light into the sky, a glowing beacon that cut through smoke and fire like dawn through night. The Syndicate soldiers turned toward the light. Stop her! Eli hit the detonator. The barrel exploded, flames sweeping across the field. The shockwave knocked soldiers off their feet and lit the night in blinding orange. Lyra shielded Eli with her body, her skin flaring bright like molten glass. When the flames cleared, the Syndicate troops were retreating, their ships pulling back as blue resistance craft began to descend. Lyra dropped to her knees, breathing hard. Her glow faded to a soft silver. "It's done," she whispered. "They're coming for me now." Eli knelt beside her, holding her shoulders. "Then it's over. You made it." She smiled faintly, her voice barely a breath. "No, we made it." A beam of blue light touched down nearby. The resistance landing. Figures in sleek armor emerged, their symbols shining with Lyra's crest. One of them knelt before her. "Princess Lyra of Elindra, your people are free again." Eli stepped back as they lifted her gently. She looked at him one last time, her eyes glowing softly. "You planted more than seeds, Eli. You planted hope." Before he could speak, the blue light surrounded her and the soldiers, rising into the sky until they vanished. Eli stood alone in the burning field. The vines around him slowly wilted, their glow fading, leaving only smoke and ash. But deep in the soil, something new was growing. Small green sprouts pushing through the black dirt, shining faintly in the moonlight. He smiled to himself. Guess she left a little of her world behind. Above, the stars shimmered brighter, like they were finally listening. The dawn over Tyrion 5 came quietly. No thunder, no fire. No ships tearing the sky apart. Only light. Soft golden rays touched the blackened soil of Eli's farm. What once was ruin now shimmered faintly with green. Tiny sprouts broke through the ashes, glowing like living jewels. The land was healing itself. Eli stood at the edge of his field, his old jacket torn and burned, his hands scarred and trembling. The smell of smoke still lingered, but the silence that followed felt like peace. He hadn't slept. He didn't dare. He was waiting, though he didn't know for what. Above him, the clouds parted. A streak of blue light cut across the sky, a resistance ship returning. Its engines purred softly as it descended, hovering above the fields that once burned for war. Eli shielded his eyes from the light. The ship landed slowly, its door sliding open. Figures stepped out, tall, elegant beings in shining armor, their markings glowing like Lyra's. And there she was. Lyra walked down the ramp, no longer the frightened girl who had hidden in his barn. She was radiant, her silver blue skin bright under the morning sun, her golden eyes warm, alive, and calm. She wore a new suit of soft, crystalline armor etched with her people's crest, the mark of the Elindran line. Eli's breath caught. He couldn't move. She smiled softly and began to walk toward him. "You came back," he whispered when she stopped a few steps away. "I promised I would," she said gently. Her voice was stronger now, but it still carried the same warmth that had first made him lower his weapon in that field. He looked around at the new sprouts growing from the soil. "Your seed, it worked?" Lyra knelt and touched the glowing vines gently. "Yes, the soil accepted it. The planet remembers kindness, Eli. You helped it live again." He chuckled softly. "Guess I'm still a farmer after all." Lyra looked up at him, her golden eyes shimmering. "You're more than that. You stood against an empire for someone you didn't even know." He shook his head. "Anyone would have done the same." She tilted her head, smiling faintly. "No, Eli. Not everyone fights for hope." They stood together in silence for a while, the wind moving softly between them. In the distance, more ships were landing. Not warships this time, but colony vessels. The resistance had brought survivors, families, farmers, children. The beginning of a new home. Eli watched as the aliens stepped onto the ground, touching the soil, smiling as green light bloomed under their feet. Lyra's people were rebuilding, and somehow his small forgotten farm had become the start of it all. He turned to her. "So what happens now?" "You're a princess again. You'll have a world to lead." Lyra looked at the horizon, her expression thoughtful. "A world to heal, not to rule. We've seen what power does. My people will rebuild with the humans here if they'll allow it." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Humans and Elindrans farming side by side? That'll be a sight." She smiled, her eyes soft. "You'll see it. You're part of this world now." He sighed, glancing at his old burned house. "It's not much of a world." Lyra stepped closer. "It is now." "Because you made it so." Her hand brushed against his arm. Light, warm, almost electric. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them said more than words ever could. Then she looked up, her expression turning serious. The syndicate will fall, but others will rise. There will always be those who try to take, to destroy. When that happens, will you fight again? Eli met her eyes. Only if you promise to come back and nag me about my melon fields. Lyra laughed, the sound pure and bright echoing across the quiet farm. You humans and your melons, he grinned. You started that? I did, she said softly. And I'd do it again. For a long moment they simply stood there, the light of the morning wrapping around them. The ships above began to rise again, their engines whispering through the dawn. Lyra turned toward the ramp as her people called for her, but she hesitated. She reached into a small pouch on her belt and handed him a seed, glowing faintly green just like the ones in his field. For you, she said. Plant it when you're ready. It grows only where hearts are kind. Eli took it, holding it gently. You sure it'll survive here? She smiled. It already has. A beam of blue light surrounded her as she stepped backward toward her ship. For a second her eyes met his in a look filled with gratitude, warmth, and something unspoken. Then she was gone, lifted back into the sky as the ship ascended into the light. Eli stood alone once again, the wind moving softly through the new vines. The sky was brighter now, the air cleaner, alive. He looked at the small seed in his hand, then at the fields glowing faintly green. A smile touched his lips. Guess we're not alone anymore, he murmured. He knelt, dug a small hole in the soil, and planted the seed. The earth glowed softly beneath his fingers, a heartbeat of new life. And as he stood, the twin suns rose together, painting the world gold and blue. For the first time in years, Eli felt something real, hope. And somewhere among the stars, a girl with golden eyes smiled back.